2 o'clock. Okay, good afternoon everybody. Welcome to Cabinet's special meeting of Cabinet today to discuss the budget. Can I welcome you? Make apologies for the front sheet of the agenda. You'll see there's a couple of obvious items missing, but we can manage those. We've seen plenty of these before. First of all, can I ask Cabinet to introduce themselves? I'm Peter Fox, Leader of the Council.
Phil Murphy, Cabinet Member for Resources.
Brian Jones, Cabinet Member for County Operations.
Paul Jordan, Cabinet Member for Governance.
Richard John, Cabinet Member for Children and Young People.
Sarah Jones, Cabinet Member for Social Justice and Community Development. Penny Jones, Cabinet Member for Social Services, Health and Wellbeing.
And Dimitri?
Dimitri. Statement true. Leader of the Labour Group.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome everybody. Apologies today from Councillor Bob Greenland, not feeling too well. Apart from that, we have any other further apologies?
Apologies from Joe Watkins.
From Joe Watkins. Okay. Right. Then can we go on to declarations of interest, and I will start. I have a personal and prejudicial interest, as my wife is a member of the SPLD team, and as you'll know, there is a recommendation or recommendations that have been out in the budget on those. So when the report starts proper, I will withdraw from the meeting for its duration, I suppose. Okay, so any other declarations of interest? No, and obviously if you find one on the way, please declare that. So I will take a performer with me and fill that out, and I will hand over now, because we're about to, there's no other items on the agenda we need to take before we go straight to Phil, who will obviously introduce the report. I don't know if you'll see me back in at the end or not.
Well, we'll think about it.
And you'll come.
You've got our back. I'm going to join the independent group, are you?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. Well, now the leader's left, I'll introduce this report, and it's the report to update Cabinet following the consultation responses following the issue of the draft budget proposals and the final settlement from Welsh Government. It also confirms the recommendation to Council to agree to an increase in council tax for 1920 of 5.95%. The potential indicator calculations for capital financing are also contained in the report, together with the Responsible Financial Officer's report on the adequacy of reserves as being within the parameters set by Council, albeit at the lower end of those parameters. There is still an inherent risk surrounding this stage of budget setting, in that there is still a lack of clarification from Welsh Government and UK Government around the funding of teachers' pension increases. It looks like April before we get that clarification. Paragraph 322 proposes a strategy for mitigating that situation. On local taxation, Cabinet is anxious, as it has always been, to work with Welsh Government actively to examine the options for longer term reform. Monmouthshire, as we all know, is still the lowest funded per capita council in Wales, and after so many years of reducing settlements, and as with local taxation, a far more progressive, fair and transparent basis for funding is required. It is difficult to accept that despite a 5.6% increase in funding to Welsh Government from the UK Government, Monmouthshire was hit yet again with a cut of 0.3%. As a result, Monmouthshire will receive some £600,000 less in hard cash than last year. However, we have some £10 million worth of extra costs to manage, mostly imposed by external forces, and corresponding savings to find. Hence the need for the 5.95% increase in council tax being recommended. Having looked at every other aspect of the council's expenditure, that is still the case. Despite this, Cabinet proposes to fully fund all pay and pension increases in schools at a cost of some 1.9 million. recognise social care pressures in both our ageing population and of children at a cost of 1.2 million, honour all national pay awards and continue to pay the living wage. DFGs will receive the extra £300,000 again. Highways will get an extra 1.2 million for maintenance. We will progress the replacement for King Henry School. We will refurbish the centre of Abergavenny in the ongoing programme and complete the hub. We will re-provide the Seven View Care Home, push the infrastructure projects regarding transport issues in the Chepstow area. Us will get its replacement post office. Caldicot Town Centre improvement will be progressed, and we will set aside £100,000 to help formulate further support for business ratepayers. However, some of the proposals in the draft budget will not be pursued following consultation. Blue badge charges will not be brought in and will not be considered for at least the rest of this administration. Sunday parking charges will be introduced at £1 per day, but only after a 2-hour free period. We will continue to offer the free period of parking at Christmas. We will not be deleting the 2 SPLD posts following concerns over the support for these learners. We promise to research the possibility of charging a premium on second homes. However, experience with other authorities suggests that there can be a loss in income as a result of those premiums being charged. So we will not be introducing such a charge. Leader, this is a very long and detailed report. I don't know why I said leader then, because he's not here. But this is a very long and detailed report, so I will stop here and invite questions. But before I do so, can I take the opportunity to thank Peter Davis, Mark Howcroft and the communications team for all involved in this process. Chief officers and their teams have done an enormous amount of work under very challenging circumstances. So I think that's enough of an introduction at the moment. Can I ask other Cabinet members if they wish to add to anything from their own portfolio's point of view? Richard?
Yeah, well, can I start just by echoing the point you made early on in your contribution, Phil, just about the funding that Monmouthshire gets. I think it's grossly unfair that already as the worst funded local authority in the country, to on top of that being given the deepest cut of any council, joint deepest cut of any council in Wales, I think is really unfair on the people we represent. I really don't see, given that we get roughly £1,000 per head, I don't see how a child in Monmouthshire is worth significantly less funding in terms of their education than children in other parts of South East Wales. And on top of that, of course, we get less pupil development grant than some other local authorities, less education improvement grant. I think the next 12 months are going to continue to be challenging for our schools in terms of delivering our commitment in offering children the very best start in life. I think this is going to be challenging with the settlement we've been given. I think it's also a slap in the face to the preventative agenda that we're certainly trying to pursue here, and it's a shame that Welsh Government isn't prioritising that preventative agenda. We all rely on the NHS, but in some ways you're treating the effects of poverty rather than when you could do so much more at an earlier stage to prevent many of the difficult issues we have to deal with. Teachers' pensions is a black hole in the finances of a lot of authorities across Wales at the moment. I hope Welsh Government will address that as soon as they can. We know that the government in England are consulting on fully funding teachers' pensions there. I hope Welsh Government will do something similar. On the SPLD proposals, I'm glad that we're protecting that funding. I've had a lot of discussions with head teachers and others, and have seen how important that is, and I'm glad we've reached that decision. I think it's the right decision for vulnerable students in our schools. Despite that really challenging settlement, I think this is a really positive and ambitious budget for Monmouthshire. The additional money you mentioned, Phil, for highways, for business rates, prioritising money for school budgets and social care, and continuing our drive to renew our school estate. Now looking at developments of new schools in Abergavenny and in Chepstow. I think this is a really positive and ambitious budget, despite those significant challenges we've got.
Yeah, thanks for that, Richard. Does anybody else want to come in, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just echo what you've said, Phil, and also Richard. I mean, the importance of acknowledging the role of local authorities, not just in terms of the statutory services that we have to provide, but the work and the role that we have in terms of the preventative agenda that Richard touched on. It's really important that Welsh Government get the message that we can play such an important role in that, and it's very short-sighted to have a budget settlement such as this, which doesn't enable us to take forward some of those opportunities which will reduce the pressures on Welsh Government budgets going forward in the future. I think it also demonstrates, and the message back to Welsh Government is clear, is that us as one of the most efficient, the leanest, the most innovative councils is facing the highest cuts. And it's quite clear that performance doesn't pay for a council like Monmouthshire. When we're doing so well and we're managing to be the leanest council, we still get the worst cuts. And I think that message needs to continue to go back loud and clear to those decision makers in Cardiff. Just to pick up on 2 points within the budget, within the documents that we've got today. The first being around impact assessments. I'm pleased to see the level of work that's gone into that from the team. So thanks to Matt Gatehouse and the others. We've really built on the future generations evaluation and gone much further and looked at cumulative impact assessment. And I think that leads from a lot of the work that we've done with organisations like EHRC, and it acknowledges the importance of looking at cumulative impact on all different demographic groups within our community. So thanks to Matt and the team for that piece of work, but also it's an evolving piece of work. So it's something we can draw on in future budget rounds. And the second point I wanted to make, and just to acknowledge the importance of the way in which we've consulted and engaged with our communities around the Blue Badge proposals. Now, clearly they came forward again, but with a concession this time. So we were trying to look at it a way to mitigate some of the potential possible impacts. Clearly it wasn't acceptable to those that we consulted with. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that we've listened to those groups and we've removed that, and not just removed it from this budget year, but for the forthcoming years up until the next election. So that's been removed and taken off the table. So I think that's really positive. I just wanted to acknowledge that as well.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Penny, did you want to add anything?
Well, I'd just like to say that we acknowledge that children's services are, in a position where they cannot make any savings, and in fact increasing their costs because the numbers are increasing. And I'd just like to say that, I've been into meeting Welsh Government this morning, and it's across the board, this rise in numbers, and the Minister himself is actually, the First Minister is actually putting that as a priority to try and reduce the number, or to have an understanding of why those numbers are so high and reduce them. So hopefully we'll be going forward with reducing the budget for that. But I'd also just like to acknowledge what adult services have done to make some savings and through their efficiency programmes. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Brian?
Yeah, first of all, I'd just like to agree with my first two colleagues who drew attention to the perilous state of our finances because of the way we are treated as a local authority, and agree wholeheartedly with them. The other thing I wanted to mention, and we don't tend to get too much into detail in these sort of meetings, but since Carl is in the room, I wondered if he just briefly outline our closure days for us and Monmouth sites, because it's the sort of thing, it doesn't sound like very much, but it's the sort of thing that might upset our residents, so we want to give them the full story. Can I hand over to you, Carl?
Yeah, okay, Carl, can you
Carl.
the two? Sorry. And introduce yourself. Okay, Carl Tuig, Head of Waste and Street Services. The original report set out came from Viridor, with the closures being Llanffoes for Tuesday, Mitchell Troy Thursday and Friday, Usk on a Monday and Tuesday, and Five Lanes on a Wednesday. Through the consultation process, lots of people suggested that the days shouldn't run concurrently and should be split across the week. So we are suggesting to change it to Troy on a Monday and Thursday, and that's backed up by data showing how many days we close for the changes of skips. So Troy would be a Monday and Thursday, Usk would be Tuesday and Friday, and Five Lanes would be a Wednesday, and Landfoist either a Tuesday or a Thursday.
Thank you, Bill.
There is one question regarding that, and came out of the conversation we had earlier on today about what would happen on the odd occasional bank holiday. Would they still remain shut, or would there be provision for making an exception on those days?
To achieve the savings as they are set out in the consultation report, they would have to, if we close on a Monday, they are closed on a.
But it would only be a couple of days a year, so.
Yes.
Okay, well, thanks for clarifying that. Brian, did you want to add that?
No, I don't add anything to that at all. Thank you, Bill.
Okay, Paul?
Just very shortly, I mean, there's one message that comes out of this budget meeting, is that Welsh Government should really listen to what we've said and the fact that equity must, equality must subsist. And you can't have one authority being shortchanged and other authorities getting profligate amounts of money. You know, the system has to change.
Yes, we can all agree with that, and we'll continue to work at every opportunity to achieve that. Chief Executive, do you want to add anything to that, Paul?
No, I'll not get drawn into the politics of the way that councils are currently financed. I think our role, or officials' roles, are to actually work with cabinet members and come up with the most progressive set of options that we can with the cards that we're dealt. I guess it's for cabinet to form a view in terms of whether you think sufficient work has been done. As I understand it, you are both comfortable and confident that that's the case. Yeah, I'd have nothing to add to that, really, Councillor Murphy.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Well, in that case, as there were no questions tabled, did you have something briefly that you wanted to ask us, Dimitri, as I'm feeling in chambers?
Well, it was a query.
Yeah.
You'd be unsurprised to say, but I didn't pre-give it, so.
Yeah. Well, do you want to leave it for the 7th?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Right, in that case, then can we move to the recommendations? As they're rather long, is everybody happy if we take them in bulk?
Yeah.
Okay, so the items listed under 2, 5, 2, 2, 8, all in agreement? Okay, thank you, everybody. Well, that's the last of the items on this particular agenda, so I'll close the meeting on that and invite the leader back in. Nikki, can you